What's up, guys? MaksWerks here, and today we got two more bikes here in the garage, and this is going to be kind of a business style episode. Not going to be any repair work in this or anything like that. We're just going to talk about how you decide whether it's a good idea to park the bike or whether it's worth it to fix the bike and sell it. So the first thing you got to know is you got to know what it is that you bought. So over here I have a 2002 XR650R, not the L, the much more powerful, desirable R model, which is pretty rare. And then over here we have a 2007 Honda CBR 600RR. Now, what makes both of these bikes valuable is they're both supposedly running, they're both plated, and they both have clean titles, and I got the clean titles with the bike. There's a few mods here and there, but generally mods don't add any value. These bikes, however, let me take you inside the garage here real quick. These bikes also had the added value of coming with a crap ton of parts. So you can see there's the gas tank down there. I got to disassemble partially because this needs a bit of a cooling system overhaul. And if I take you over here, you can see there's actually a huge pile of parts over here, and all of this and all the original documentation for these bikes actually came from this guy. So they were owned by the same guy who wrecked both of them inside of 1 calendar year, which, I mean, talk about horrible luck. So basically, once you kind of have a good idea of what you do have, you got to figure out how much it's going to cost you to get what you don't have. And that's the point where you really got to make a decision. You really have to make a decision on what your margin is going to be. If you're happy making 20%, then you only need to get back $1.20 for every dollar that you spend. I usually don't even bother with anything unless I can make at least 100% profit. So for every dollar I pay out, I want to get $2 back in. So that's kind of where you got to figure out what you need. So I paid $850 for each of these bikes individually. And this bike over here needs to be reassembled. I'm pretty sure I have most of the parts. The wiring is a mess and is damaged beyond repair in some places, and it needs a whole new front set of forks because the old forks were destroyed, as well as a new front axle. Now, for this bike, a new set of forks would be between $200 and $250. Another $20 for the axle. It needs a new ignition coil, another $30. And before you know it, I'll have spent at least $400 putting this bike back together. Now, that's where market research comes in, and the best I could find is, as a whole, I could get maybe $2,500 for this bike. So it's right there on the border between should I part it or should I fix it, because if I have about $1,200 in and I get $2,500 out, that's my margin. That's exactly where I want to be at a minimum. The other question comes in is, how desirable is this bike actually? I've never been a big fan of the XR series. I always thought they were big and slow and luggish. Some people really like them, obviously, but in the end, I don't think it's worthwhile to fix all of the wiring issues, because as far as I can tell, these motors on eBay sell for about $1,500. The other thing is, both of these bikes set for quite a while. I actually got this one because it's carved. I got it running this morning and made a video. So like I was saying, this bike I can sell more for parts probably than what I can get for the bike as a whole. And the other thing to remember is, it's not a matter of just buying all the parts you need. There's quite a bit of time and labor that goes into fixing a bike, especially getting it to run properly, as opposed to parting it out, because normally I can part a bike out in about an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. So if I can make $1,500 in profit for 2 hours worth of work, that's $750 an hour. That's a great amount of money. Whereas if I gotta put in 15, 20 hours to fix it, all of a sudden that profit margin, or basically the amount of money I make per hour, shrinks drastically. So, having gone through all the stuff, I'm pretty sure this bike we're gonna just part it out, and there'll be a video on that separately. But if we move to the CBR needs a few coolant hoses. It appears to maybe need an engine cover, and it needs something done with the front. It needs a new master cylinder up front, and it needs a gauge cluster, and it needs some wiring up here, just the stock harness. So part of the problem was I didn't go through these boxes while I was out there. The guy said that the gauge cluster and stuff was all in the bike, or on the bike, or in one of these boxes, but it turned out it's not. So I'm looking at probably about $300 to get the parts I need to turn this into a Street Fighter. And I actually have, you guys saw earlier, I have all the plastics from it too. But I can get probably closer to between 28 and 3,000 for this bike. And it'll actually make a pretty decent Street Fighter when it's done. So, but on the flip side, parting out this bike, this motor is only worth about $700 on eBay, and there's plenty of them. So I'd be hard pressed to even make my money back parting out this bike. I really need to get it up and running and fix it. Whereas this bike, we're definitely going to just rip apart and part out. So yeah, so that's kind of the thing. And you hear me pulling a lot of these numbers out. I did a little bit of market research, but a lot of this just comes with experience. After you pull apart a couple of these bikes and sell them and whatnot, you get a good feeling of how much stuff is going to cost. So that when you go out to somebody's house and you're looking at this old piece of junk, you kind of have a good idea of what it's already going to cost you to get it back on the road without ever shelling out any money up front. That's important. It's an important skill to develop if you're going to be doing this long term. Let's see. Well, that's pretty much it, guys. You really want to just make sure that you don't overcommit, because whenever you start buying parts for a bike like this, you're digging yourself deeper and deeper in the hole, and you need to make sure that that investment actually makes sense before you start doing it.